identifying funding sources. There's a slide here, there's a white paper that got distributed, which is great, and it covers in great detail all the different possibilities for funding your business. So I'm not going to go into all that, but what I will say is if it's your first restaurant or maybe your second restaurant, it's really going to be friends and family. And so the asking for money, if you haven't done it before, for some people it comes naturally, for a lot of people it doesn't. It's uncomfortable, it's awkward, and you just got to do it. You got to get over it. And I think Ida made some good points. One of the things that I've seen in terms of giving pitches is practice. Practice a lot. Practice till you're sick of practicing, until you can do it literally with your eyes closed and in your sleep. Because you'll get better. Practice in front of a mirror, practice in front of people, and just get good at it, because people, you create amazing spaces and experiences for people, but those experiences can't happen if you don't raise the money. So when you're asking for it, realize the people that you're asking for money from, they want to see this happen. They want to see it become a reality. And if you don't raise the money, it's not going to happen. And so it's hard. There's no question that it's hard. I've been asking people for money for a long time, and it's still uncomfortable for me, but it's the means to the end. And again, there are other funding sources that you may be able to tap into, particularly as you open your first location and you show success. It's easier and easier. But for the first one, it's going to be friends and family, and you have to inspire people with your passion. One thing I will say, and Claire was kind enough to invite me to a program they did up at Babson a couple of years ago, and first of all, it was really great because there's all these people not from New York, not from LA, not from Chicago, from smaller markets around the country that were doing really great things in restaurants and in hospitality, as I heard today, which is really awesome and was sort of an eye-opener for me. So I was there to be a judge on the pitches that were the culmination, the capstone of this week-long program. And I can't tell you how many women, before they got to the pitch, right, the ask was like, and I need $1 million. They giggled. Don't giggle, and I get different opinions on this, but one of my takeaways from that is pitch like a guy. Like pitch where you're confident and people are going to be like, wow, this guy's great. And there's a lot of guys that pitch like that raised a bunch of money that didn't know what they were doing. But you have to exude that confidence. You have to get people, it's like the checkbook moment. People see the pitch, they see what you're doing, they see the passion, they see the competence and the ability, and they reach for the checkbook. One of the other things that I was going to say is that one of the great things about what I get to do is the hospitality community and the food and beverage community in general is an amazing, amazing community. It's collaborative. Tap into that community. One of the things that I do, as I mentioned, we do these dinners, these big dinners where we just had 75 people for dinner at the rooftop farm in the Essex Market. I've got a thing for farms, so I've done 4 or 5 dinners on farms in New York City, which I'm running out of farms very quickly. But part of the reason I do that is people don't get out of their foxholes and see their friends, see their peers, meet people that can help them. And so it's hard, but use your network and tap into that network. People want to help you. Talk to your peers. Learn from their mistakes so you don't have to make them again. And people don't, in general, people in the hospitality community are super busy, so it's hard to do that, but it can really, really help. One of the other things that I was going to say is that a lot of times I've helped founders when they're going to raise money from friends and family. I'm like, do a dinner. Have people come into your location, or if you don't have the location yet, do it somewhere else. But show them your stuff, have an open bar, get them a little drunk, and ask them for the money. Honestly, it works. And the other thing I was going to say is, and you've got the CohnReznick people here, hire an accountant and an attorney and other service providers who specialize in the industry. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people. I'm like, well, who's your accountant? They're like, well, it's this guy, It's like, does he do hospitality? I'm like, yeah, he does me. There's a lot of industry-specific knowledge and network that can come out of those people. So if you need recommendations, obviously, we're in CohnReznick's office, so you know where to find them. If you need recommendations, let me know. But that can bring a lot to the table. And talk to your peers about who they work with, whether it's a bookkeeper, whether it's the insurance people, and find out who's good and who's reliable and who can help. Okay, so these were the categories of restaurant finance. This is in the white paper. I'm not going to go through all these. I'm going to dig down on a couple and give you some specific ideas. The white paper I thought was really, really well done. But again, if you're starting out, it's going to be mostly friends and family. But there are some other things that you can tap into. It's not going to raise all the money, but it can be part of the solution. Inkind Capital. Has anyone heard of Inkind Capital? Oh, you worked for them? Awesome. Actually, Inkind sponsored our dinner at the Essex Market, so we got to meet Johan and the whole team. Inkind Capital, the founders came out of the restaurant business, understand the challenges of financing a restaurant business, and really tried to create a model that was going to be supportive of restaurant operators. And so basically what they do is they purchase dining credits from you. Okay, so maybe to use a number, and correct me if I'm fact-checking me here, $1 million of credit, they'll give you $500,000 for that. That's about right. And then on their platform, customers can buy those credits at a discount. So if they buy $1,000 worth of credit, they'll get $1,300 worth of. If they pay $1,000, they get $1,300 worth of credit, and understand it costs you less than $1,300 to serve that customer. And so obviously they're not going to buy more credit than they think they can sell to their customers and your customers. But it's a fairly efficient source of capital. And again, if they sell these credits, not everyone's going to use them all at once. It's not like you're going to have to pay the money back by providing the services and providing the product. Day one, it's going to take people time. Some people may never cash it in, and that sort of inures to your benefit. But highly recommend. There's someone in the room from Inkind. Talk to them. They're great people. They're very supportive of the community. And again, you're not going to raise all the money, but if you can raise that incrementally, that's a little bit less that you have to raise from friends and family and elsewhere. They've done a lot of stuff with Union Square Hospitality. My good friend Sam Goldfinger is the CFO of Butcher's Daughter. If everyone knows Butcher's Daughter, he just did a deal with Inkind Capital. He's a great guy. He'd be happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk about that experience. He's a finance guy, so that's actually a very interesting source of capital. And I think over time you're going to see more and more innovative solutions for solving the problem of how do you raise capital efficiently for the hospitality business. Equipment financing. So you have to build out a kitchen, you have to buy tables and chairs, all that stuff. There are companies that will finance that potentially, I can't speak for them, but will finance your equipment purchases. Some of those can ask for personal guarantees. If you can at all avoid it, don't sign a personal guarantee. As an example, Camber Road is a company. I know the folks there very well. I know they don't just do hospitality, they do CPG, they can even do office furniture. But it's a sale leaseback. They'll buy the equipment, they'll lease it back to you, there's a buyout at the end, or you return the equipment. And so instead of having to have, whatever it is, $250,000 to build out your kitchen, it becomes a monthly expense for a 3-year or 5-year term. Camber Road specifically does not ask for personal guarantees. They're very user-friendly. Obviously, they're a business. They're trying to make a return. But if you can take that capital need out of the amount you have to raise, then that puts you in a stronger position. So again, I know the folks there I can introduce you. Crowdfunding. A lot of people ask about crowdfunding. It's depending on what you're trying to do. It's limited in how much you can raise. It's sort of like $50, $75, maybe $100,000. There's I can get you the link, apartment 4F. I live in Brooklyn Heights, and there's this little, which is kind of sleepy, the main street there, the food's not particularly good. These folks started making croissants and baguettes in their apartment. They did a crowdfunding, they got some SBA loans, and they opened a location in Brooklyn Heights, and there's a line out the door every morning. They did a crowdfunding for like $50,000. So again, depending on what you need, that may not be enough, but it's it's an option. It's probably not the top option for them in terms of what they needed to get open. It definitely helped. MCA, merchant cash advance, you'll see in the white paper, extremely expensive, and the longer it takes you to pay it back, the more expensive it is. And if you can even get it. So I would look at that as a last resort. There are other companies that will finance basically through your POS. And Phoenix is an example of that. Keith Lee is an ex-Wall Street guy. He does consumer and retail and hospitality. If you know the wine bar Vin Servant, which has like 8 or 9 locations in New York and Washington, he financed every one of their stores. And basically, they take over the merchant the credit card processing, and they actually get paid through that. And so what they charge you for the loans, if they give you a loan, is actually pretty reasonable cost. And so again, good people to talk to. May not be the whole solution, but can certainly be part of it. And then real estate focused firms. So I don't know if has anyone been to Rockefeller Center recently? Show of hands. You should get there. You should check out what's going on. So basically, Friend of Chef, which is Keith Durst and Todd Birnbaum, great folks, come out of the real estate side of the hospitality business, and so they work with real estate owners like the owners, Tishman Speyer of Rockefeller Center, when they said, no one wants to go to the Sea Grill anymore. Let's redo all the F&B here. And over the last couple of years, they've done that, and they've done a fabulous job. So Le Roc is the Frenchette folks that opened there. Amazing restaurant. It's not cheap, but really a beautiful space. They did an amazing job. Jupiter, which is the female-led team from King downtown, opened Jupiter at the rink level, so you can actually eat and watch people. I was there one night. It was like the middle of holiday season. It was like 50 degrees out and pouring, and people are out there in like ponchos skating around going, we came from Kansas. We wanted to skate in Rockefeller Center. Damn it, we're going to skate in Rockefeller Center. And they were all having a good time. But Jupiter is amazing. And so they either work for real estate owners who say, we want to have curated food and beverage in our office building, in our hotel, whatever the case may be, and will provide capital to do a build out. It may not be necessarily for your first location, as with the restaurants that they put in Rockefeller Center, but for your second location, or your third location, having a landlord front those expenses can be a great way to limit how much you have to raise. So folks like Friend of Chef do that. Main and Main is Kyle Kavanaugh. He's out in LA. So there are folks like that. Again, there may be other people in your particular region that do that kind of work, but those are folks that you should talk to, and that can definitely help. So the other thing is, there are a number, and again, there's folks in the New York area that I've come to know who invest specifically in restaurants and hospitality concepts. Okay, so I gave you some examples. Trispan, so Trispan folks came out of the hospitality business on an international scale. If you know Maman, has anyone been? There's like 20 of them around the city now. So Trispan financed Maman, I think when they had 2 or 3, they now have 20 and growing quickly. Has anyone been to Naya Express? It's a Middle Eastern, client of yours? Awesome. Hadi's an amazing operator. So in the pandemic, most of his locations were in Midtown. I think he had 4 locations, and he did a deal with Trispan, and he's got 15 and growing, and it's sort of a, Hadi is from Beirut, and the food's great. It's a Chipotle style, just go down the line and build your bowl, your whatever you're having. His goal is to have a Naya next to every Chipotle in the country, and I would not bet against him. But I would say that the Trispan folks, who also are in Rosa Mexicana and others, they bring a lot of industry expertise. And if you talk to those 2 founders, Ben Sermonte at Maman and Hadi Kaffouri at Naya, they will sing the praises of the Trispan folks. That doesn't always happen when you take that kind of capital, because those investors are going to be tougher on terms and milestones and things like that than your friends and family. But if you're at the point where you have 3 or 4 locations and your goal is to get to 20 or 50 or 100, folks like that can be really helpful, because running 3 or 4 is a lot. Running 10 or 20, it requires a different level of organization and infrastructure. And folks like that have seen the movie before and can really help. RFI is an interesting one. So RFI, John Rigos and Andy Stern, they own a bunch of Five Guys here. They own Melt Shop, Little Beat, Field's Good Chicken. And one of the things that's really interesting, and this is one of the places that we overlapped fairly recently, is in addition to meeting a lot of women founders, I also meet a lot of founders of color. And what seems to be a challenge in both those cases is the networks tend to be a little bit more limited. And so hopefully I've helped a lot of women founders and founders of color bridge that gap and tap into the network of financing and other service providers. RFI is involved and basically internalized an accelerator, incubator called Caminus, run by a fellow named Kobla Asamoah, who had been at Hot Bread Kitchen. Initially, he's been at Caminus, and what they found, Caminus is based in Harlem. They provided initial capital to get through that development stage, but then found when it came to launch, the capital for that stage wasn't there. And so Caminus, Marcus Samuelson's on the board and involved there as well, is going forward, RFI is going to allocate a certain percentage of their fund assets to investing in businesses that come through Caminus. So really exciting what they're doing, and knowledgeable again about the restaurant industry. They're going to be more on the fast casual side, and each one of these firms has a different focus, and you have to sort of understand what's going to be a fit for you or not. Kitchen Fund is Greg Golkin. Again, they do Gregory's. They're an investor in Beatnik and others, and really good at scaling from a fast casual brand from 3 or 4 locations where you've demonstrated 4-wall economics, and then scale it, in a lot of cases using franchising as part of the growth vehicle. And I wanted to highlight Full Course out of Atlanta. I assume Stephanie knows Lauren Fernandez, but she has a very particular focus, which is supporting founders, women, founders of color, and immigrants in taking fast casual concepts and through the life cycle of growing to a certain point, franchising, bringing in CPG to add additional revenue. They have a whole consulting and education program that goes along with that. So she's got a fund, she's got a consulting side of the business. So particularly for this group, great to find people like that, and happy to make introductions there. The other thing I would say is RFDC. Has anyone been to RFDC? So we know what it is? Besides Stephanie. RFDC is a big restaurant trade show. It happens in Las Vegas in November. I was just there. It was, I don't know about you. I love New York because it's authentic and it's real. And you go to Las Vegas, you're like, where the hell am I? I'm literally trying to get from the front door of the Wynn to the conference space using my map on my phone, because it's like 2 miles from one. I hate Vegas, but everybody in the industry was there. And so all these people are there. People like you are there. I mean, it's definitely, bigger chain, franchise heavy. There's a lot of that there. But if you're at the point where you've gotten past friends and family, it's worth going. It's 3 days. It can be a lot of fun. I think the pass, if you're an operator, is like, I don't know, $700, $800, something like that. And everyone's there. And even if you're not ready for them yet, you should get on the radar screen of these kind of people if your goal is to get, if it's going to be one restaurant that's not the right fit, but if you're going to be 5, 10, 20, 50, get on the radar screen early, tell them what you're up to, come back the next year and say, this is what we've done. Can we sit down and talk?